It all started with what should have been the happiest day of my life, me wedding. My fiancée, Sarah, and I had spent 6 long months planning every detail, from the elegant caterers to the twinkling lights hanging from the trees. Our wedding was going to be small, intimate, just 80 close friends and family celebrating on my 2-acre property under the shade of the dogwood trees. We'd already jumped through all the hoops, secured all the necessary permits. Everything was perfect. The weather was just right. Everything was in place, ready for the most beautiful day. But then, about 2 hours before the ceremony, a woman knocked on my front door. And when I say knocked, I mean saw like she was trying to break the thing down. It was loud, aggressive. I thought maybe it was someone with a delivery or a neighbor with a complaint, but when I opened the door, there she was. A woman in her late 40s, dressed in a crisp navy power suit that could have made anyone think she was about to inspect a government building, not show up at a wedding. She had this tight, furious look on her face, like someone about to confront a criminal. And in her hand, she had a clipboard, nothing official, just one of those intimidating, "I'm here to fix everything" clipboards. Her name? Linda Hoffman. She was the HOA president, self-proclaimed community safety officer, and apparently, she thought she had a say in everything that happened within a 5-mile radius of her perfectly manicured lawn. She wasn't invited to our wedding, but that didn't stop her from showing up unannounced, demanding to speak to the property owner. Well, that was me, and I could already feel my wedding day slipping from my grasp, but I tried to keep it cool. "Can I help you?" I asked, trying to be friendly, though I'm pretty sure I failed at hiding the stress in my voice. "You're hosting an unauthorized mass gathering," she declared. "This is a fire hazard, and it's a violation of multiple fire codes." I blinked. "What? Ma'am, this is my wedding reception. Everything here is legal. I've got all the permits." Her eyes narrowed. She was VYing none of it. "It's unsafe. You're creating a dangerous situation for everyone. You're violating fire safety codes and occupancy limits." I glanced over at the wedding guests mingling with champagne in hand, the beautiful white tents standing tall, everything looking more like a picture-perfect wedding than a fire disaster waiting to happen. "Ma'am," I said, "I've got every permit, every approval. This is all legal." She shook her head, scoffing, as if she knew better than anyone in the county. "This isn't legal. It's dangerous," she shot back. I kept calm barely. "I've checked everything. The fire department's approved it." Linda, in her infinite wisdom, seemed to know better than the fire department. "This can't be right. Residential properties aren't allowed to have events like this. It's a fire hazard." She was wrong, but I had to bite my tongue. Arguing with a woman like Linda wasn't going to help. "I have everything. I can show you the permits inside, if you'd like." She followed me into the house, still muttering about how unsafe this all was. I pulled out all the paperwork: special event permits, temporary structure permits for the tents, catering licenses, and most importantly, the fire department approval for 80 people. I laid it all out, hoping to put an end to her nonsense. She didn't even look at the papers at first, just stared at them with suspicion, as if she expected some hidden flaw. The longer she looked, the more agitated she became. "These can't be real," she insisted. "Oh, they're real," I said, smiling politely. "You can contact the fire department directly to verify." And then right then I realized something. Linda didn't just have a problem with the wedding. She was obsessed with fire codes. Not just in a way that an HOA president might be, but in a way that seemed professional, almost too professional. That's when she did it. She pulled out her phone, dialed 911, and suddenly, I was the criminal. "I'm reporting an illegal mass gathering," she said to the dispatcher, her voice shifting from demanding to frantic. "There are over 100 people at a residential property. There's no way emergency services can access the site if something goes wrong." I froze for a moment, processing what was happening. She was making it all up, straight up fabricating an emergency in front of me, on my own property. She went on about fire safety violations, blocking emergency access routes, claiming this was an impending disaster waiting to happen. The absurdity of it hit me so hard I almost laughed. I didn't, but the temptation was strong. But as I stood there, listening to Linda twist the truth, I started thinking something wasn't right. She was using fire safety terminology like she'd been trained, like she knew exactly how these things were supposed to be. Linda wasn't just an HOA president. She had real knowledge, too much knowledge. Something was off. But before I could dwell on it, the fire department arrived. The sound of the fire truck was oddly comforting, like a reminder that I wasn't alone in this. But as the fire engine pulled up and Captain Rodriguez stepped out, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. And that's when it happened. The moment of SAW recognition. SAW. Chief, what's the emergency here? Captain Rodriguez asked, surveying the scene. His casual tone didn't fit with the dramatic emergency Linda had described. Linda's face turned ashen, her whole body stiffened. See, Chief? She whispered, realizing she'd just called 911 to report the SAW fire. Marshal saw VY adding fire codes at his own wedding. Captain Rodriguez, with a grin creeping across his face, announced, "This is Chief DVYD Johnson. He personally approved all of this. If there was a fire hazard here, he'd be the first to know." The silence that followed was so palpable, you could hear birds singing in the distance. Linda stood frozen, utterly humiliated. It was at that moment that I realized what had been happening for the past few months. Linda had been harassing me and my neighbors for nothing. All of her safety concerns. Made up, weaponized as a way to get people to stop VYing parties, stop hosting events, stop drawing attention to her real operation. And that's when we took the next step. I couldn't ignore the glaring truth any longer. There was something more going on here. Something much worse than just a few noisy backyard parties. Linda's house across the street from mine was a disaster. Captain Rodriguez and I decided to investigate. As we walked across the street, I couldn't help but notice the extension cords snaking across her front porch. I pointed them out to the captain. The moment he saw them, he knew exactly what I was thinking. This wasn't just a house, it was a potential fire trap. We walked around the property and saw something that made my stomach churn. Inside, I could see commercial-grade equipment stacked high under a tarp, equipment that should never be in a residential area, much less in a house like Linda's. "Ma'am," I said, turning to Linda, "what's going on here? Are you running a business out of your home?" She hesitated. I could see the panic on her face, the realization that she'd been caught. "No, it's just some personal hobby projects," she stammered, her voice shaking. But I wasn't buying it. The EVY Denke was all over the place. We kept pushing, inspecting, and when we walked into Linda's garage, the truth was laid bare. There, in plain sight, was a full-scale commercial embroidery operation. Industrial machines, fabric stacked to the ceiling, toxic chemicals strewn around in ways that VY saw every fire and safety regulation. The garage wasn't a workspace, it was a disaster waiting to happen. I turned to Captain Rodriguez. He'd seen enough. "This is illegal," I said, my voice calm but with a weight that I couldn't shake. "She's been running a business out of here without any permits. No licenses, no inspections. This is a serious violation." But it wasn't just the business. It was the environmental damage too. The chemicals stored improperly, the lack of ventilation, the fire hazards. The whole thing was a ticking time bomb. By the time we called in the hazmat team, it was clear that Linda's illegal operation wasn't just a fire risk, it was poisoning the entire neighborhood. Soil contamination, air pollution, you name it. Linda wasn't just a nuisance, she was a danger to everyone around her. The whole neighborhood had been VYing in her shadow, terrified of minor violations, while she'd been secretly running a hazardous operation right under their noses. The irony? It was so perfect, it almost felt like karma had orchestrated the whole thing. And then just when you think it couldn't get worse, it did. Linda's manipulative VY went deeper than anyone could have imagined. She had been using her position in the HOA to harass her neighbors, intimidate them, get them to ignore the OBVY's dangers in her own yard. And now, she was facing charges that would destroy her life. But the best part? The most satisfying part? Watching Linda stand there completely broken as the authorities began to shut down her entire operation. It was the most poetic justice I'd ever witnessed. Linda, who had tried to ruin my wedding, was now going to lose everything. I know it's easy to think that karma's just a myth, that some people get away with everything. But in my case, karma showed up right on time and it was sweet. What do you think? Have you ever had someone try to ruin your special day? Or maybe you've dealt with a neighbor who thought they could do whatever they wanted. Drop a comment and let's talk about it. This is one of those stories that proves sometimes justice is a long time coming, but it's always worth the wait.